Horror games are a dime a dozen these days, but there are not a lot of games of this ilk that use elements of stealth in their gameplay. When used correctly, these mechanics can induce another level of fear and tension to the whole affair as you slowly tiptoe through haunted places, constantly on the lookout for any monsters lurking in the dark. With this feature, we'll be taking a look at 15 of the best horror games with stealth elements. Alien Isolation. Developer Creative Assembly knocked it out of the park with Alien Isolation, which is undoubtedly one of the best games to have come out of the Alien label in quite some time. It puts you in the shoes of Amanda Ripley, who must do everything and anything in her might to outsmart the Xenomorph. And because of the fact that you can't really kill him, the best bet is to hide under tables and behind closets and hope that the alien doesn't notice that. Of course, that's easier said than done, because the Xenomorph AI learns from your past runs and adapts itself based on those inputs, which ensures that players are always on their toes. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Released in 2010, Amnesia: The Dark Descent is a psychological horror game where players must explore a desolate castle as they slowly unveil the many secrets that hide behind its rusty doors and cobbled walls. Amnesia trades short-term jump scares for an insanity meter that must be kept in check to ensure survival, and a constant shortage of available resources against an onslaught of enemies adds an element of mechanical fear to the mix. It nails the feeling of getting under your skin, and that makes it a rather memorable experience. The Evil Within. While we are due for a third entry in a long time, The Evil Within definitely stands tall as one of the best horror stealth games of all time. The game places a lot of emphasis on sneaking around corners and carefully picking fights, and this particular behavior is practically forced upon the player through scant resource availability. The constant feeling of dread and being on the knife's edge of survival, coupled with jump scares, makes The Evil Within an incredibly memorable experience. Forbidden Siren. Developed by Sony Japan, Forbidden Siren is a PS2 stealth horror classic that continues to be an important game of its kind. The gameplay majorly entails making your way through different environments while safeguarding your companion NPCs, and you can use slow walking, distractions, and of course sight jacking to chart a safe path to your destination. While Forbidden Siren does allow players to use weapons, it's important to understand that not all fights are worth losing your precious ammo on, which in turn incentivizes players to turn towards stealth options. Little Nightmares 2. Little Nightmares 2 is a really smart game that hides its scariest parts under the compelling veneer of cartoony graphics. It's also a rather competent stealth game with simple hide-and-seek based mechanics, but what makes it so special is the Tim Burton-esque black aesthetic that can send chills down your spine, alongside the sheer variety that you can find within the many stages on offer. It does a great job of making the player feel powerless and insignificant as you desperately try to stay away from the clutches of evil, and that is the true mark of a good horror game. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. The Last of Us Part 2 takes what worked in the original and amps it all up by making combat a lot faster, smoother, and acrobatic. Ellie is nimble who can quickly clamber up buildings and choke down enemies in an instant, and that increased speed of movement makes stealth a lot more interesting. Between this and firefights taking place in larger open-ended arenas, The Last of Us Part 2 becomes a surprisingly dynamic game where the routes you take almost become an act of personal expression. Outlast. Outlast is all about surviving against all odds in a dilapidated mental facility, and everything from the color palette to the spooky narrative and the hide-and-seek based gameplay gives this game a really distinct feel that's quite hard to replicate. Unpredictable enemies lie waiting in the darkest corners of the facility, And trying to make it out alive using nothing but your wits and makeshift camera batteries is a truly horrifying experience that will test your survival skills to the fullest. Resident Evil 7. The Resident Evil series took a sharp turn with this entry, after the action movie-esque Resident Evil 6 left the franchise's reputation in ruins. Resident Evil 7 is a slow-paced horror game at its core that has light stealth elements put into the mix for good measure. It emphasizes judicial use of whatever scant resources you have at your disposal, and the constant feeling of dread as you tiptoe through the charred Baker mansion is something that will stay with you long after the credits roll. Soma. Easily one of the most stress-inducing experiences of recent memory, developer frictional game Soma thrusts players into the darkest depths of the Atlantic Ocean. It poses deep questions through its intricate narrative, and it can be brutally difficult at times. Soma's basic gameplay loop revolves around using stealth and staying away from the line of sight of monsters, but the level design and jump scares make it all a rather difficult endeavor. Clock Tower 3. Clock Tower's attempt at crafting a stealth-based survival horror game might not have been as successful as Resident Evil, but Clock Tower 3 certainly has plenty of merits to its name. It employs a simple gameplay loop of hiding from monsters and exploring the many desolate environments in search of clues regarding Alyssa's familial history. But the execution of those mechanics and the level variety make it all a wonderful experience. Remothered Tormented Fathers. Remothered Tormented Fathers takes players through a complex mystery behind the disappearance of a titular girl whose search takes our protagonist Rosemary Reed to a house of horrors. The game tells a rather fascinating tale that beautifully teeters on the line of grey morality, which in turn questions the player to differentiate wrong from right over and over again. The gameplay revolves around using elements of stealth to smartly deceive stalkers and navigate this house of horrors. In addition to this, Remothered also features smart puzzle design and no health bars, which furthers the immersive experience. Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight stands tall as one of the most successful asymmetrical horror games on the market, and while there are a lot of contributing factors to that success, one of those aspects has to be the stealth mechanics on offer. As a survivor, you have access to different perks and abilities that can be used to lose the killers in an efficient manner. Some of these perks are Lucky Break, which prevents trails of blood from dropping, and Quick and Quiet, which helps in silently hiding in lockers. And while Dead by Daylight's shades of stealth options might be limited, using them smartly can do wonders for players. Prey. Arcane is a master of creating great stealth mechanics, and while Dishonored might be the most emblematic of those traits, 2017's Prey also comes in at a close second. Prey features a complex web of interweaving systems, which includes but is not limited to stealth mechanics such as sneaking, hacking, and shape-shifting. Players can make use of these mechanics to avoid fights and make last-ditch escapes when things start to heat up, and the progression system gives many options to build out your character in a sneaky fashion. The Investigator. As the name itself suggests, the Investigator is all about trying to uncover the mystery behind the disappearance of Eleanor. The search for this individual leads our protagonist to the titular Von Bergen mansion, where horrors and secrets lie hidden behind each room. The gameplay majorly revolves around exploring this mansion and solving the many puzzles that will lead you closer to the final mystery, but you also have to protect yourself against towering enemies that can quickly close gaps and kill you in seconds. It takes cues from Alien Isolation in that sense, but it is definitely one of the more interesting games that you should definitely check out. Katanga, the River of Souls. Another indie game on the list, Katanga, the River of Souls, takes place in the 1920s in a dystopian Belgian Congo. As a former slave who was the subject of some truly horrid experiments, you must escape the horror-infested facility and save your soul from the clutches of evil. Katanga mostly relies on the familiar thrill of a cat-and-mouse chase, and it features many supernatural abilities based around projecting your soul to different objects. Using these abilities smartly and quickly navigating through the complex is the key to ensuring survival, and while the production values might not be as high as other games on this list, Katanga is definitely a must-try for fans of the genre. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.